The lane narrows between timber-framed houses, quiet now that the market day is done. Somewhere behind a shuttered window, a candle gutters and steadies. Tonight we witness the daily pulse of the 11th century for a morning in a Song Dynasty market. Let the centuries fall away, sink gently into your pillow, the day is done, and you are safe to rest. Let your eyelids grow pleasantly heavy. This is quiet history. Let us begin. The city of Kaifeng does not truly sleep. It merely breathes in a different measure during the smallest hours of the morning. Before the sun has even considered the horizon, the great gates of the inner walls stand ready, their massive iron studs cool to the touch. A single lantern, fueled by vegetable oil, casts a soft amber glow over the stone paving, where the first carts of the day wait in patient rows. There is a quiet dignity in these moments, before the rush of the 11th century capital takes hold. The dampness of the Bian River reaches into the streets, carrying the scent of fresh water and wet timber. You can hear the distant, muffled thud of a wooden mallet, someone preparing the morning meal in a kitchen tucked away behind a lacquered screen. The atmosphere is thick with the promise of industry, yet for now everything remains suspended in a gentle grey. A merchant adjusts the straw padding on his donkey's back, his movements slow and practiced. The animal huffs, a plume of white mist vanishing into the dimness of the alleyway as they move toward the central square. As the first hint of indigo touches the sky, the stalls of the morning market stir into their daily life. This is the time of the breakfast sellers, those who provide the fuel for a city of over 1 million souls. Small charcoal fires are coaxed into life with bamboo fans, sending tiny dancing sparks upward into the cooling breeze. The smell of toasted grains and fermented soybeans starts to drift through the lanes, a familiar comfort to those who rise with the birds. In a small corner stall, a woman rolls out dough for steamed buns, her floured hands moving with a graceful cadence. The wooden steamer baskets are stacked 10 high, their woven lids holding in the heat that will soon sustain the early laborers. Nearby, a tea-house owner unbars his shutters, the wooden planks sliding into their grooves with a satisfying hollow click. He sets out low stools of polished elm, arranging them with a precision born of 30 years of habit. The ceramic pots are rinsed with boiling water, the steam rising to meet the rafters where a few crickets still chirp in their tiny bamboo cages. In the canals that lace through the heart of the city, the water is as smooth as dark jade. A flat-bottomed barge glides forward, pushed by a long pole that scrapes against the silty bottom with a rhythmic low note. It is laden with sacks of rice from the south, the heavy hemp fabric damp from the overnight journey. The boatman moves with a steady pulse, his weight shifting from heel to toe as he leans into the wood. He does not speak, for the silence of the morning is a shared treasure among those who work the waterways. Above him, the stone bridges arch like the backs of sleeping dragons, their carved balustrades catching the very first sliver of pale light. Further into the market district, the apothecary is already at work. His shop, a sanctuary of dried herbs and earthen jars, he uses a small bronze scale to measure out dried ginger and licorice root, the weights clicking softly against the metal pan. Each drawer in the massive wooden cabinet is labeled in fine calligraphy, containing the secrets of health and balance. The smell of the shop is complex, a mixture of bitter roots and sweet dried flowers that seems to rest in the back of the throat. He grinds a handful of peppercorns in a stone mortar, the steady grind and turn creating a white noise that masks the waking city. It is a meditative task, one that requires focus and a calm spirit. Outside, the sky has turned to a soft lavender, and the silhouettes of the multi-storied buildings become sharper against the horizon. These structures of timber and tile are marvels of engineering, held together by intricate joints rather than iron nails. They lean toward one another across the narrow streets, creating a canopy of eaves that shelters the morning walkers. A paper lantern maker sits on his porch, his fingers weaving split bamboo into a delicate frame. He works by the light of a single candle, his shadow dancing large against the paper-covered door behind him. Each strip of bamboo is shaved to the thickness of a fingernail, flexible enough to bend without breaking. He applies a layer of translucent silk to the frame, using a brush made of rabbit hair to smooth the paste. The fabric is so fine it almost disappears, leaving only the structural skeleton visible in the half-light. This is the craft of the city, where beauty and utility are woven together in the smallest of objects. Across the lane, a calligrapher prepares his ink, rubbing a solid soot stick against a stone slab with a few drops of water. The resulting liquid is deep and lustrous, reflecting the brightening sky like a mirror. He tests the point of his brush, a tool of wolf hair and bamboo, before laying out a sheet of handmade hemp paper. His task today is to write out the daily prices for the grain merchants, a job that requires clarity and speed. Yet even in this mundane work there is a sense of art, each stroke of the brush a deliberate movement of the wrist. The ink flows onto the paper, drying into a rich matte black that will guide the commerce of the day. By now the main thoroughfare is beginning to fill with the soft shuffle of cloth-soled shoes on packed earth. It is not the frantic pace of the midday heat, but a purposeful walk toward the center of trade. People nod to one another, a silent recognition of the shared labor that keeps the empire turning. A flower seller arrives with baskets of peonies and lotus blossoms, their petals still beaded with the dew of the gardens outside the walls. The colors are muted in the early light, soft pinks and deep reds that provide a splash of vibrancy against the gray stone. She arranges them with care, ensuring each bloom is displayed to its best advantage. The fragrance of the flowers mingles with the charcoal smoke and the scent of the river, creating the unique olfactory map of Kaifeng. It is a smell that travelers remember long after they have left the city gates, a reminder of the life and energy of the Song Dynasty. Every corner of the market has its own note in this symphony of scents. Near the drum tower, a group of scholars gathers, their silk robes rustling like dry leaves as they converse in low tones. They are here to witness the opening of the official markets, a ceremony of tradition and law. Their fans are tucked into their belts, and their eyes are bright with the intellectual curiosity of the age. The first official bell of the morning rings out, a deep, resonant bronze chime that vibrates in the chest of every person in the square. It signals the end of the dawn watch and the beginning of the day's true commerce. The sound rolls over the rooftops across the canals and through the winding alleys, calling the city to its feet. As the golden rim of the sun finally clears the eastern walls, the shadows stretch long and thin across the marketplace. The amber light catches the gilded signs of the shops, making the characters for prosperity and harmony glow. The transition from the quiet of the night to the activity of the day is now complete, and the market stands ready for the thousands who will soon fill its spaces. With the bell still humming in the stillness, the tea house at the corner of the stone bridge stirs into motion. The proprietor, a man of 64 years, lifts the thick wooden shutters to welcome the early light. He moves with a measured pace, his hands familiar with the grain of the weathered cedar. Inside, the charcoal braziers are already glowing, casting a soft orange light against the whitewashed walls. He pours fresh spring water into a large iron kettle, the liquid splashing with a clean, sharp note. The scent of roasting tea leaves starts to drift through the open doorway. It is an earthy, toasted aroma that speaks of distant hillsides and misty mornings. On the wooden shelves, rows of ceramic jars hold the treasures of the season: dragon well, silver needle, and dark fermented cakes from the south. Each jar is labeled with careful calligraphy, the ink long since dried into the porous clay. The proprietor prepares a small pot for himself, the first brew of the day, watching the leaves unfurl like waking flowers in the hot water. Outside, the textile lane is coming alive. Merchants unroll bolts of silk that shimmer like the scales of a fish in the morning light. There are deep indigos, pale jades, and the rich yellow of the imperial court. The fabric makes a soft, sliding whisper as it passes over the polished wood of the counters. A young apprentice uses a long bamboo pole to hang banners of dyed hemp above the street, the cloth fluttering in the gentle breeze from the river. The textures here are a study in contrasts. There is the smoothness of the silk against the rough weave of the hemp, the cool touch of the jade ornaments against the warmth of the morning sun. A customer pauses to feel the weight of a piece of brocade, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns of phoenixes and clouds. There is no rush to the transaction, only a quiet appreciation of the weaver's skill. The merchant speaks in a low murmur, explaining the origin of the dye and the number of days spent at the loom. Further down, the woodworkers are setting out their wares. The smell of cedar and pine is thick here, a sharp and refreshing scent that cuts through the humidity. Baskets of woven bamboo are stacked high, their patterns creating a complex play of shadow and light. A craftsman sits on a low stool, his knife peeling a thin strip of green bamboo with a satisfying measured scrape. He is making a cricket cage, a tiny palace of interlocking slivers that requires the utmost patience. The shavings at his feet are like curls of pale ribbon, soft and fragrant. He works with a focus that ignores the growing bustle of the market. His hands are guided by decades of repetition, moving with a grace that is almost silent. Nearby, a furniture maker polishes a rosewood cabinet with a cloth dipped in beeswax. The wood glows with a deep internal fire, the grain flowing like water across the panels. It is a piece built to last for generations, a silent witness to the passing years. The market is not just a place of trade, but a place of making. In a small stall tucked between two larger buildings, a potter arranges his bowls. They are simple things meant for daily use, yet each has a grace of form that elevates it. The glaze is a pale celadon, the color of a shallow lake under a clouded sky. He runs a thumb over the rim of a tea bowl, checking for any imperfection that might have occurred in the kiln. The clink of ceramic against ceramic is a delicate musical note that punctuates the morning. He places a small stone weight on a stack of paper wrappings, preparing for the first sale. His hands are stained with the grey dust of dry clay. It is a mark of his profession that he wears with quiet pride. The light catches a tiny crackle in the glaze of a vase, a deliberate effect that adds character to the piece. By the canal, the first of the supply boats has docked. The water laps against the stone embankment with a soft, steady thud. Laborers move with a consistent cadence, carrying sacks of rice and jars of oil on their shoulders. They use long carrying poles made of flexible bamboo, which creak under the weight of the cargo. The movement is a dance of balance and strength, a physical manifestation of the city's appetite. The smell of the river is present here, a mix of wet stone and algae. It is a cool, damp scent that provides a brief respite from the growing warmth of the square. A boatman ties a thick hemp rope to a rusted iron ring, the fibers groaning as they take the strain. He wipes his brow with a damp cloth and looks up at the sky, noting the position of the sun. In the food stalls, the fires are reaching their peak. A woman flips flatbreads on a hot iron griddle, the dough puffing up and browning in seconds. She sprinkles them with sesame seeds, which pop and dance in the heat. The atmosphere is filled with the savory aroma of toasted grain and melting fat. A queue forms quietly, people waiting for their morning meal with a patience that is characteristic of the hour. Beside her, a large steamer emits clouds of white vapor that smell of pork and ginger. The lid is lifted, revealing rows of translucent buns, their tops pinched into perfect spirals. The steam rises into the rafters of the stall, disappearing into the shadows of the thatched roof. Each bun is a small parcel of warmth, a comfort to those who have been awake since before the dawn. A man sits at a small table, sipping a bowl of hot soy milk. He holds the bowl in both hands, letting the heat seep into his palms. The liquid is creamy and sweet, a simple pleasure that marks the start of his workday. He watches the people pass by, his eyes following the movement of a colorful kite being tested by a shopkeeper's son. The kite is a dragon of red and gold, its long tail snapping in the wind. The market is a tapestry of such moments, small and significant. A monk in saffron robes walks slowly through the crowd, his brass staff clinking against the stones. He does not stop to buy or sell, but his presence adds a layer of solemnity to the scene. People give him a wide berth, a sign of respect that is given without thought. He moves toward the temple at the end of the street, his footsteps lost in the general murmur. Under the eaves of a spice merchant's shop, the atmosphere is dense with the smell of the exotic. Baskets are filled with star anise, cinnamon bark, and dried chilies. The colors are a rich palette of browns, reds, and ochres. The merchant uses a small brass scale to weigh out a portion of cloves, the weights clicking softly as he adjusts them. The dust from the spices hangs in the shafts of sunlight, a golden haze that tickles the nose. He folds the spices into a square of thick paper, tying it with a piece of twine. The package is neat and compact, a small bundle of flavor that will transform a family's meal. The customer pays with a few copper coins, which drop into the merchant's wooden till with a dull metallic noise. It is a small exchange, one of thousands that will take place before the sun sets. The shadows are beginning to shorten as the morning progresses. The light is turning from amber to a bright, clear white that reveals every detail of the city. The carvings on the temple doors, the moss growing in the cracks of the pavement, and the patterns of the silk robes are all rendered with a startling clarity. The marketplace is now a living entity, a machine of commerce and community that functions with a quiet efficiency. In a quiet corner, a bird in a bamboo cage breaks into song. Its notes are high and clear, a trill of melody that rises above the low hum of the crowd. The owner, an old man leaning on a cane, smiles as he listens. He has brought his pet to enjoy the fresh air and the company of other birds. The cage is hung from the branch of a willow tree. The long green fronds brush against the bars. The willow tree stands at the edge of a small pond, its roots drinking from the same water that feeds the canals. The surface of the pond is still, reflecting the sky and the surrounding buildings like a sheet of polished jade. A few fallen leaves float on the water, tiny boats of gold and brown. The peace of this spot is a contrast to the activity only a few steps away, a reminder of the balance that exists in all things. As the mid-morning heat starts to build, the pace of the market does not quicken, but rather deepens. The merchants settle into their routines, the craftsmen continue their tasks, and the shoppers move with a deliberate intent. It is a time of focus and productivity, a period where the true character of the city is revealed. The sun is now high enough to illuminate the narrowest of alleys, chasing away the last of the morning mist. Every sound, every smell, and every sight is a thread in the fabric of the Song Dynasty. We move now toward the Great Bridge, where the life of the river and the life of the city meet in a grand display of motion. The Great Bridge, an arch of timber and stone, spans the river like a wooden rainbow, connecting the two halves of the bustling city. Here, the measure of the morning is felt in the footfalls of 1,000 people, crossing the water on their way to trade. The wood beneath their feet groans softly, a low note that speaks of strength and endurance through years of constant use. Underneath the arch, the water flows with a steady pace, carrying the silt of the southern plains toward the sea. Large barges, laden with sacks of rice and jars of oil, glide through the cool shadows of the structure above. The boatmen use long bamboo poles to guide their craft, the wood splashing into the water with a wet, consistent pulse. A small tea stall, perched near the highest point of the bridge, offers a place for travelers to rest. The steam from the iron kettle rises in thin white curls, disappearing into the bright morning light. The proprietor, a woman with silver hair tied in a neat bun, pours the hot liquid into small stoneware cups with a practiced grace. The tea is a pale amber color, smelling of roasted leaves and the damp earth of the mountains. A scholar, dressed in a robe of pale blue silk, sits on a wooden stool, watching the activity on the river below. He holds his cup with both hands, letting the warmth soak into his fingers, before taking a slow, thoughtful sip. Beside the tea stall, a fortune-teller has set up a small table covered in a cloth of deep crimson. He shakes a bamboo tube filled with numbered sticks, the wood clicking together like the teeth of a tiny dragon. A young merchant waits with a look of quiet anticipation, hoping for a sign of good luck on his journey to the northern provinces. The fortune-teller selects a stick, his eyes tracing the characters carved into its face, with a focused intensity. He speaks in a low, gravelly voice, his words lost to all but the merchant, who nods slowly in understanding. A few copper coins are placed on the table, their metallic chime mixing with the murmur of the crowd. At the foot of the bridge, the fishmongers have laid out their morning catch. On beds of crushed ice and green leaves, silver-scaled carp and long, slender eels glisten in the sun, their bodies still slick with the river's moisture. The smell of the water, fresh and slightly sharp, hangs around the stalls, drawing in the local cooks. A woman in a simple tunic of grey hemp examines a large fish, pressing her thumb against its side to check for firmness. She bargains with the seller in a quiet, rhythmic exchange, their voices rising and falling like the tide. A price is agreed upon, and the fish is wrapped in a large, waxy leaf, tied with a strand of dried straw. Nearby, a group of rope makers are at work, their fingers moving with a speed that comes from decades of repetition. They twist strands of hemp together, creating thick, sturdy cables that will be used to moor the great ships. The rough texture of the fiber creates a dry, rasping noise as it is pulled through their calloused palms. The coils of finished rope lie on the wooden dock, smelling of salt and sun-dried grass. A sailor, his skin darkened by years on the open water, inspects the quality of the work, pulling on a cord to test its strength. He nods in approval, and a group of laborers carries the weighted bundles toward a waiting vessel. The river itself is a mirror of the city's industry, its face broken by the wake of a dozen different boats. Small sampans weave between the larger barges, their oars dipping into the water with a soft, rhythmic splash. The sunlight dances on the ripples, creating a mosaic of gold and silver that shifts and changes with every movement. On the muddy bank, a group of women are washing clothes, their wooden paddles striking the fabric with a dull, echoing thud. They talk in low voices, their laughter a gentle counterpoint to the activity on the bridge. The scent of lye and wet cloth mingles with the smell of the river, creating a familiar domestic atmosphere. A row of bamboo rafts, tied together with thick vines, floats near the shore, carrying a cargo of timber from the mountain forests. The logs are stripped of their bark, their pale wood shining in the morning light. A young man sits at the end of the raft, dangling his feet in the water as he waits for the signal to unload. The toll collector sits in a small wooden booth at the entrance to the bridge, his ledger open before him. He records the passage of every cart and pack animal, his brush moving across the paper with a delicate scratching noise. The ink is dark and glossy, drying quickly in the warm morning atmosphere. A caravan of donkeys, laden with baskets of charcoal, moves slowly across the bridge, their hooves clattering on the timber. The animals move with a patient, steady gait, their ears twitching at the noise of the marketplace. The smell of the charcoal, dusty and slightly smoky, trails behind them as they disappear into the narrow streets. A group of children dressed in bright tunics of red and yellow gather at the railing of the bridge. They watch a large boat being pulled upstream by a team of trackers on the opposite bank. The trackers lean forward against their harnesses, their movements synchronized as they haul the heavy vessel against the current. The rope stretching between the trackers and the boat is taut and vibrating, humming with the tension of the task. The men sing a low, rhythmic chant to keep their pace. Their voices carry across the water with a haunting, melodic quality. It is a testament to the effort required to keep the city's heart beating. In the shadow of a large warehouse, a group of stevedores are taking a brief rest, sitting on crates of tea and spices. They wipe the sweat from their brows with pieces of rough cloth, their breathing slow and steady. A large jar of cool water is passed between them, each man taking a deep, satisfying drink. The warehouse is a temple of commerce, its high ceilings lost in the dimness of the upper reaches. The smell of 1,000 different goods, from silk to sandalwood, fills the interior, a dense, intoxicating perfume. In the quiet corners, spiders spin their webs between the rafters, their silk threads catching the stray beams of light. As the morning moves toward its peak, the activity on the river and the bridge reaches a state of perfect flowing balance. Every person and every object has its place, contributing to the grand design of the city's life. We turn away from the water now, moving toward the district where the weavers and dyers create the fabrics that clothe the empire. The street narrows here, the stone walls rising high on either side, damp with the morning mist. The smell of damp earth and wood smoke is joined by a sharper, more pungent note, the scent of fermenting indigo. This is the quarter of the weavers and the dyers, where the colors of the city are born from vats of earth and leaf. Every doorway reveals a glimpse of a different stage of the craft, a quiet industry that never truly sleeps. In a small courtyard, a woman leans over a steaming basin, her movements slow and deliberate. She stirs a handful of silk cocoons in the warm water, loosening the delicate threads that will soon be spun. The steam rises in thin, swirling ribbons, catching the pale light that filters down from the rooftops. There is a soft, bubbling hiss as the water simmers, a gentle pulse that anchors the morning. A few doors down, the clatter of the loom fills the narrow space, a steady wooden measure of time. The weaver sits on a low bench, her feet moving in a practiced dance upon the treadles. She passes the shuttle back and forth, the thread of silk as fine as a spider's web, disappearing into the growing fabric. The pattern is intricate, a series of geometric shapes that seem to shift and change as the light hits them. The wood of the loom is dark and polished by years of constant use. It groans softly with every movement, a familiar, comforting noise that has echoed through these streets for generations. On a nearby table, several spools of thread are arranged in a rainbow of colors, from the deepest crimson to the palest jade. Each one represents hours of labor, from the gathering of the dye plants to the careful spinning of the silk. Further into the district, the smell of the dye vats becomes stronger, a mixture of vinegar and fermented herbs. Large ceramic jars are lined up along the walls, their surfaces stained with the colors of 1,000 baths. A young apprentice is stirring a vat of deep blue, his arms stained to the elbows with the pigment. He moves with a slow, steady pace, ensuring that the color is distributed evenly through the fabric. The cloth is lifted from the vat, dripping with a rich, vibrant hue that seems to glow in the dimness of the workshop. It is hung from a wooden rack to drain, the excess dye falling in slow, rhythmic drops into a stone trough below. The atmosphere is warm and humid, filled with the scent of wet fabric and the earthy aroma of the dye plants. It is a place of transformation, where raw silk is turned into works of art. In the corner of the workshop, a master dyer is examining a piece of finished cloth, his eyes keen and discerning. He runs his hand over the surface of the fabric, feeling for any imperfections in the texture or the color. He nods slowly, a small smile of satisfaction playing on his lips. This piece is perfect, a testament to his skill and the quality of the materials. Outside, the morning sun is beginning to warm the rooftops, the light reflecting off the glazed tiles. A group of women are spreading out large sheets of silk on bamboo frames to dry in the gentle breeze. The fabric is so thin that it is almost translucent, the light passing through it to create a soft, ethereal glow. The colors are even more vibrant in the open atmosphere, a dazzling display of craftsmanship. A small cart pulled by a sturdy pony moves slowly through the street, laden with bolts of finished cloth. The driver calls out in a low, melodic voice, announcing his arrival to the merchants who wait in the marketplace. The hooves of the pony make a soft, muffled noise on the damp stones, a gentle accompaniment to the morning's activities. The cart is covered with a thick protective cloth to keep the precious cargo from being soiled. In a quiet corner, a young girl is learning the art of embroidery, her needle moving with careful precision across a piece of silk. She is working on a design of plum blossoms, the delicate petals rendered in shades of pink and white. Her mother sits beside her, offering gentle guidance and encouragement. It is a slow, painstaking process, but the results are truly beautiful. The thread is so fine that it is almost invisible to the naked eye. She uses a small silver needle, its surface shining in the soft light. Every stitch is a testament to her patience and her dedication to the craft. The room is quiet, save for the soft rustle of the silk and the occasional distant call of a street vendor. Nearby, a group of workers are unloading a shipment of raw hemp from a large wooden barge. The bundles are weighted and solid, their rough texture a sharp contrast to the softness of the silk. They are stacked neatly against the wall of a warehouse, waiting to be processed into the sturdy fabric used for the clothes of the laborers. The smell of the hemp is earthy and slightly sweet, a reminder of the fields where it was grown. The warehouse is a large, cavernous space, its high ceilings supported by massive wooden beams. The air inside is cool and still, a welcome relief from the warmth of the morning sun. Rows of shelves are filled with bolts of cloth of every imaginable color and texture. It is a treasury of the city's industry, a testament to the skill and hard work of its people. A clerk sits at a small desk near the entrance, his brush moving quickly across a long scroll of paper. He is recording the arrival of the new shipment, his movements efficient and practiced. The ink is dark and glossy, the characters appearing with a graceful, flowing motion. He pauses for a moment to dip his brush in the inkstone, his eyes focused on the task at hand. As the morning progresses, the district becomes more active, the murmur of voices and the clatter of tools, creating a steady, industrious atmosphere. People move between the workshops, carrying bundles of thread or bolts of cloth, their faces set in expressions of quiet concentration. There is a sense of purpose in every movement, a shared commitment to the excellence of their craft. In a small tea house at the edge of the district, a group of weavers are taking a brief break from their work. They sit on low stools, sipping from bowls of hot, fragrant tea, their conversation low and relaxed. They talk about the quality of the latest shipment of silk or the challenges of a particularly difficult pattern. It is a moment of quiet reflection before they return to the demands of the day. The tea is a pale golden color, its aroma a delicate blend of flowers and earth. The steam rises in thin, wispy clouds, disappearing into the rafters of the small building. The tea house is a simple structure, with wooden walls and a thatched roof, its atmosphere one of peace and tranquility. It is a place where the workers can find a moment of rest amidst the bustle of the city. Beyond the tea house, a narrow path leads toward a small garden where the dye plants are grown. The garden is a riot of color, with rows of indigo, madder, and safflower, their leaves and flowers swaying gently in the breeze. The smell of the plants is fresh and green, a stark contrast to the pungent aroma of the dye vats. A gardener is moving between the rows, carefully tending to the plants, his movements slow and methodical. He uses a small iron trowel to loosen the soil around the roots of the indigo, ensuring that they have enough space to grow. He pauses to admire the deep blue of the flowers, a promise of the rich color they will eventually produce. The garden is a place of growth and renewal, a vital link in the chain of the city's industry. It is a quiet sanctuary where the raw materials of the craft are nurtured and cared for. As the sun reaches its zenith, the light in the district becomes more intense, the shadows lengthening against the stone walls. The activity in the workshops continues with a steady, unwavering pace. The workers focused on their tasks. The sounds of the looms and the bubbling of the vats create a constant background hum that defines the character of the quarter. It is a place where time seems to move at a different speed, governed by the measure of the craft. We leave the district of the weavers now, the scent of indigo and silk still lingering in our senses. Our journey takes us toward the more refined areas of the city, where the scholars and officials spend their days in contemplation and study. The transition is gradual, the narrow streets giving way to broader avenues, lined with elegant houses and gardens. The atmosphere shifts from one of industry to one of quiet reflection as we approach the heart of the city's intellectual life. The transition into the district of the scholars is marked by a sudden, deepening quiet. The broad avenues are paved with slabs of grey limestone, worn smooth by the passage of many soft-soled shoes. High walls, finished in pale plaster, rise on either side, topped with the dark, curving tiles of the capital's finest architecture. There is a sense of order here, a stillness that invites a more deliberate pace. The morning haze clings to the eaves of the gates, softening the edges of the empire. In this quarter, the atmosphere is permeated by the scent of pine soot and the faint, sweet perfume of sandalwood. A merchant is opening his shop, where the finest ink sticks are displayed like precious jewels. These black rectangles are pressed with intricate patterns of soaring dragons and drifting clouds, some even touched with a leaf of real gold. He handles them with a reverence that suggests they are more than mere tools for writing. They are the concentrated essence of thought and history waiting for the touch of water. Nearby, a carver is hunched over a block of seasoned pearwood, his small chisels moving with a practiced, unwavering grace. He is creating a new wood block for a collection of poems, each character a tiny monument of precision. The shavings fall away like the delicate wings of pale insects, piling in soft heaps upon his workbench. This is a labor of immense patience, where a single slip could ruin the work of many long weeks. The wood is hard and resistant, yet it yields to the steady pressure of his hand. In a courtyard just behind the shop, several men are engaged in the making of paper. They move with a measured tempo, dipping large rectangular screens into vats of pulped mulberry bark. The water drains away, leaving a thin, translucent layer of fibers which they carefully couch onto a growing stack. These damp sheets will eventually become the canvas for the city's greatest minds, holding the weight of law and philosophy. The smell of wet wood and vegetable starch is clean and bracing in the cool morning. Further down the street, a brushmaker is meticulously sorting through bundles of animal hair. He selects only the finest strands of rabbit and goat, checking their length and flexibility. With a keen, experienced eye, he binds them together with silk thread before securing the tuft into a hollow handle of polished bamboo. Each brush is a balanced instrument, capable of producing both the boldest stroke and the most delicate line. He works in silence, his focus entire as he perfects the shape of the tip. We pass a private gate where a cluster of bamboo leans over the wall, its leaves whispering in the light breeze. Beyond the gate, a scholar is preparing for his morning studies in a room that opens onto a small, moss-covered garden. He takes a small bronze water dropper shaped like a sleeping toad and lets 2 or 3 drops fall onto his inkstone. The stone is a deep slate grey carved from a mountain quarry many hundreds of miles to the south. With a slow circular motion, he begins to grind the inkstick against the wet surface. The liquid that forms is a rich, lustrous black, a pool of shadows that seems to absorb the morning light. He tests the consistency with the tip of his finger, ensuring it is neither too thin nor too thick. This ritual is a bridge between the physical world and the realm of ideas, a moment of preparation for the mind. The quiet in the room is absolute, broken only by the soft, rhythmic scrape of the inkstick. It is a measure of time itself, slowed down to the pulse of a single hand. On the shelves behind him, hundreds of scrolls are arranged in neat rows, their silk covers a tapestry of muted colors. Each one is labeled with a small tag of ivory or bone, indicating the title and the author. These are the voices of the past, preserved in ink and silk, waiting to be heard once more. The air in the library is dry and cool, preserving the fragile materials from the dampness of the season. It is a sanctuary of knowledge where the bustle of the market feels like a distant, fading memory. A servant enters the room, moving with a quiet, practiced step, carrying a tray of hot tea. The vessel is made of fine Celadon porcelain, its pale green glaze resembling the color of a mountain lake. He pours the tea into a small, shallow bowl, the steam rising in thin, graceful spirals. The fragrance is grassy and fresh, a reminder of the hillside gardens where the leaves were plucked. The scholar takes a sip, the warmth spreading through him as he turns his attention to the blank paper. Outside, the street is coming to life, though the noise is never as loud as in the commercial heart of the city. A sedan chair, painted in a deep, somber red, is carried past by 4 porters, their movements synchronized. Inside sits an official, on his way to the administrative halls, his mind likely occupied with matters of state. The silk curtains of the chair flutter slightly, offering a brief glimpse of his embroidered robes. He is a figure of authority, yet he moves through the city with a quiet dignity. We follow the path toward a stone bridge that arches gracefully over a narrow canal. The water below is still, reflecting the white walls and the green branches of the willow trees. A small boat, laden with bundles of firewood, glides silently under the bridge, the boatman using a long wooden pole. The ripples he leaves behind are small and gentle, disappearing before they reach the mossy banks. The bridge is a place of brief transition, a link between the quiet streets and the busier docks. On the other side of the bridge, a group of students are gathered outside an academy. They are dressed in simple blue robes, their hair tied back in neat topknots. They talk in low voices, discussing the lectures of the day or the merits of a particular style of calligraphy. Their faces are bright, with the energy of youth, yet tempered by the discipline of their studies. They represent the future of the empire, the next generation of leaders and thinkers. In a small shop nearby, a binder is at work, assembling a new book, using the butterfly method. He folds the printed sheets in half with the text on the inside and glues the creases to a central spine. This allows the book to open flat, making it easier for the reader to study. He uses a paste made from flour and water, applying it with a thin, flat brush. The covers are made of stiffened silk, providing protection for the precious pages within. As the morning progresses, the light becomes clearer, illuminating the details of the stone carvings on the academy walls. There are depictions of sages and mythical creatures, their forms softened by centuries of weathering. The craftsmanship is superb, a testament to the skill of the masons who built this place. The stone feels cool to the touch, a solid and enduring presence in a world of constant change. It has stood for generations and will likely stand for many more. A vendor of steamed buns has set up a small cart at the corner of the Academy Square. He does not shout his wares, but allows the savory aroma to speak for him. The steam from his bamboo baskets rises in thick white clouds, catching the sunlight as it filters through the trees. A few students stop to buy a quick breakfast, their coins clinking softly in the vendor's wooden bowl. The buns are soft and warm, a simple comfort in the early hours. We move toward a small garden, tucked away between two large compounds, a place of public rest. A low stone wall encloses a pond where several large koi swim lazily through the dark water. Their scales of gold and orange flash beneath the surface as they rise to investigate a fallen leaf. A small pavilion with a thatched roof provides a place to sit and contemplate the beauty of the landscape. It is a miniature world, perfectly balanced and full of peace. In the center of the garden, a plum tree is just beginning to blossom, its delicate white flowers a herald of the coming spring. The scent is subtle, almost elusive, yet it fills the small space with a sense of renewal. A scholar sits on a stone bench nearby, his eyes closed, as he listens to the murmur of a small fountain. The water trickles over a series of mossy stones, the sound a constant soothing presence. It is a moment of pure, undistracted reflection. As we leave the garden, we see a collection of jade seals displayed in the window of a lapidary's shop. These seals are carved from stones of many colors, from creamy white to deep forest green. They are used by scholars and officials to sign their work and authorize documents. Each one is unique, a masterpiece of miniature sculpture, often topped with the figure of a lion or a tortoise. The jade is cold and smooth, a material that suggests both beauty and permanence. The morning sun is now high enough to reach the bottom of the narrowest alleys. The shadows are retreating and the city is fully awake, though the scholars' district maintains its quiet character. The activity here is focused and internal, a world of thought and artistic expression. We feel the weight of the history that surrounds us, the centuries of learning that have shaped this empire. It is a place where the mind is given the space to breathe and grow. Our journey through the quiet streets of the intellectual quarter is coming to an end. We have seen the tools of the scholar's craft and felt the stillness of their private retreats. The scent of ink and the sound of rustling bamboo will stay with us as we move on. Our path now leads toward the grand gates of the Imperial Administrative Complex, where the pulse of the empire is most clearly felt. The morning sun, now climbing steadily, casts long, elegant shadows across the wide, stone-paved avenue. We approach the outer perimeter of the Imperial Administrative Complex, where the architecture shifts from the intimate scale of scholars to the grand, orderly proportions of government. The walls here are high and finished with smooth grey plaster, capped by tiles of deep forest green. A sense of quiet purpose permeates the atmosphere as the city's heart prepares for the day's official business. Ahead of us, the great vermilion gates stand wide, their massive timber leaves reinforced with bands of dark iron. 2 guards are stationed. At the entrance, their lamellar armor glinting with a soft metallic sheen in the early light. They stand with a stillness that matches the masonry, their long spears held upright and steady. There is no tension here, only the calm, unchanging presence of imperial authority. A messenger arrives from the eastern provinces, his horse's hooves creating a sharp, rhythmic measure against the granite pavers. The animal is flecked with the dust of travel, its breath forming faint plumes of white in the cool morning. The rider dismounts with a fluid, practiced motion, handing his leather satchel to a waiting clerk before leading his mount toward the nearby stables. This constant flow of information is the lifeblood of the empire. Near the gateway, a group of junior scribes gathers in the shade of a sprawling willow tree. They wear robes of modest, unpatterned silk in shades of slate and willow green, their hair bound neatly under black caps. Each man carries a portable writing desk slung over one shoulder and a bundle of fresh, blank scrolls. They speak in low, respectful tones, discussing the morning's agenda before they disappear into the labyrinthine offices. Across the street, a specialty shop caters specifically to the needs of the court. Through the open storefront, we see rows of official robes hanging from polished wooden racks, their colors strictly dictated by rank and office. The finest pieces are embroidered with subtle tonal patterns of cranes and clouds, visible only when the light hits the fabric at a certain angle. The smell of cedar and pressed silk drifts out into the street, a refined and orderly scent. In a small stone niche beside the shop, a tiny shrine has been prepared for the morning. A single stick of sandalwood incense burns in a bronze vessel, its thin trail of smoke curling upward toward the eaves. This small act of devotion is a reminder of the spiritual thread that runs through even the most bureaucratic of lives. The fragrance is woody and sweet, a brief moment of olfactory peace. A humble tea house tucked into a nearby corner serves the lower-level clerks who have already begun their long shifts. The interior is dim and cool, with simple wooden benches and low tables worn smooth by decades of use. Large porcelain bowls are filled with steaming pale green tea, the liquid shimmering in the soft light. The clink of a lid against a cup is the only noise breaking the contemplative silence. A high-ranking official is carried toward the gates in a covered sedan chair of dark, lacquered wood. The four bearers move with a synchronized gliding step, ensuring the passenger remains undisturbed by the unevenness of the road. The curtains of the chair are made of thick blue brocade, shielding the occupant from the gaze of the public. It passes by like a silent ghost, a vessel of power and responsibility. On the wall of a nearby government building, a large wooden notice board displays the latest decrees. The calligraphy is bold and precise, written with black ink on sheets of yellow paper that flutter slightly in the breeze. A small crowd has gathered to read the new regulations regarding the grain tax and the dredging of the southern canals. They read in silence, absorbing the news that will shape their lives for the coming months. Further down the lane, a master carver is at work in his small atelier, creating official seals. He sits on a low stool, his eyes focused on a small block of pale soapstone held firmly in a wooden vise. With a series of delicate, controlled strokes, he removes tiny flakes of stone, revealing the intricate characters of an official's name. A small pot of bright red cinnabar paste sits ready on his bench, the medium that will bring his work to life. We cross a high, arched bridge that spans one of the many canals feeding into the administrative district. Below us, a barge laden with sacks of rice for the imperial granaries moves slowly through the dark water. The boatman uses a long bamboo pole to guide the vessel, his movements slow and deliberate. The water laps against the stone pylons with a soft, sucking noise, a constant liquid presence. In the center of a small square stands a tall wooden tower, housing a great clepsydra or water clock. The steady, measured drip of water from one bronze basin to the next marks the passage of the hours with mechanical precision. A small bell rings once, a clear silver note that resonates through the district, signaling the change of the watch. Time here is not a vague concept, but a carefully governed and measured resource. An apothecary's stall set up on the edge of the square offers relief for the various ailments of the working man. Baskets are filled with dried roots, bark, and pressed leaves, each with its own distinct earthy aroma. The vendor, an elderly man with spectacles perched on his nose, carefully weighs out a portion of dried ginger for a customer. The transaction is quiet, a simple exchange of health and silver. The main offices of the district are arranged around a series of interconnected courtyards. Each one is a model of symmetry and order, with paved walkways and carefully tended beds of ornamental shrubs. The wooden pillars of the buildings are painted a deep earthy red, supporting roofs of grey ceramic tiles. It is a landscape of discipline where every element has its proper place. In one of the larger courtyards, several tall banners are mounted on poles of polished bamboo. The silk fabric is dyed in vibrant imperial colors of gold and crimson, catching the full strength of the morning sun. They snap softly, in the wind a visual representation of the empire's reach and majesty. The colors are bold, yet they do not clash with the sober stone environment. Behind the offices we find the stables, where the horses of the official messengers are kept. The air here is rich with the scent of dry hay and well-oiled leather, a more rustic atmosphere than the polished corridors nearby. A groom is busy, brushing down a large chestnut stallion, his movements calm and steady. The horse shifts, its weight, its hooves thudding softly against the straw-covered floor. A small workshop nearby is dedicated to the repair of official umbrellas and fans. Large frames of split bamboo are covered with sheets of thick oiled paper which are then left to dry in the sun. The paper is translucent, glowing like amber as the light passes through it. These tools are essential for the officials who must maintain their dignity in all kinds of weather. As we move away from the administrative gates, the road begins to widen significantly. The quiet, disciplined atmosphere of the government quarter starts to blend with the more vibrant, energetic pulse of the city's commerce. The transition is gradual, marked by the increasing variety of goods and people we encounter. The morning is maturing, and the day's potential is beginning to unfold. We pass a pair of massive stone lions that guard the entrance to the merchants' district. Their manes are carved in elaborate scrolling patterns, and their eyes seem to watch the passing crowds with a silent, stony wisdom. They are symbols of protection and prosperity, marking the threshold between the world of law and the world of trade. The stone is warm to the touch, having absorbed the early morning heat. Our journey continues as the grand thoroughfare opens up before us, leading toward the very center of Kaifeng's commercial life. The distant murmur of the main market grows louder, a complex tapestry of voices and activity. We leave behind the silent halls of power and move toward the bustling heart of the city's daily survival. The road ahead is broad and bright, promising new discoveries in the vibrant markets that lie just beyond the next great intersection. The grand thoroughfare opens wide as we step deeper into the heart of the capital's trade. The paving stones underfoot are worn smooth by the passage of countless feet and heavy carts. Every step brings us closer to the vibrant center of the market's life, where the pulse of the empire is most palpable. To our left, a silk merchant unfolds a bolt of fine, shimmering fabric. The material is the color of a summer sky, just before dusk, and it ripples like water as he lays it across a polished wooden counter. His hands move with a practiced grace, smoothing out the tiny creases that have formed in the weave. The texture of the silk is incredibly fine, a testament to the skill of the weavers in the southern provinces. It catches the light in a way that seems almost liquid, reflecting the soft morning glow that filters through the high eaves of the stall. This is the fabric of dreams and of high office, a luxury that speaks of the city's immense wealth. Next to the silk, we find a stall dedicated to the art of calligraphy. The merchant here is a man of quiet dignity, his fingers stained with the ghost of black ink. He is currently grinding a fresh stick of pine soot on a stone of dark mottled slate. The motion is circular and steady, a meditative task that requires great patience. Small brushes made of fine goat hair and bamboo are arranged in a neat row on his desk. Each one is a delicate tool capable of creating characters that are both strong and elegant. The smell of the ink is earthy and sharp, a scent that is synonymous with learning and the preservation of history. He takes a sheet of handmade paper, which is thick and slightly textured. With a single fluid motion, he dips his brush into the ink and begins to trace a series of characters across the page. The ink sinks into the fibers of the paper, creating a permanent record of his thoughts and skill. Further down the row, the fragrance of jasmine and roasted tea drifts toward us from a small, open-fronted house. Inside, the atmosphere is cool and dim, a welcome relief from the growing heat of the morning sun. Tables of dark lacquered wood are occupied by scholars and merchants who speak in low, hushed tones. A young man pours hot water from a long-necked iron kettle into a delicate ceramic bowl. The steam rises in a gentle spiral, carrying with it the floral notes of the tea leaves. It is a quiet, refined ritual that offers a moment of stillness in the midst of the city's activity. The porcelain is thin enough to be translucent, showing the pale amber color of the liquid within. Each cup is a small work of art, decorated with hand-painted scenes of mountains and rivers. To hold such a vessel is to appreciate the delicate balance between function and beauty that defines this era. Outside, a potter is arranging his wares on a series of tiered shelves. The bowls and jars are finished in a soft celadon glaze that resembles the color of jade. They are stacked with great care, each one separated by a small piece of soft cloth to prevent chipping. The clay used for these vessels is sourced from the riverbanks nearby and refined until it is as smooth as cream. When struck, the bowls emit a clear bell-like chime, a sign of their high quality and even firing. The potter wipes a thin layer of dust from a large, elegant vase, his eyes filled with a quiet pride. Nearby, a jeweler is working on a set of hairpins made of silver and seed pearls. He uses a pair of tiny pliers to bend the wire into the shape of a flowering branch. The work is minute and exacting, requiring a steady hand and a keen eye for detail. The silver has been polished until it shines like moonlight, providing a perfect backdrop for the iridescent pearls. These ornaments are designed to catch the light as a woman moves, adding a touch of grace to her appearance. It is a craft of patience where every small element contributes to the final masterpiece. In a quiet corner, away from the main flow of traffic, a bird seller has hung his cages from the branches of a willow tree. The cages are made of fine, split bamboo and are decorated with small porcelain water bowls. Inside, small finches and thrushes hop from perch to perch, their songs a delicate counterpoint to the city's murmur. The birds are colorful and lively, their feathers a mosaic of yellows, greens and browns. The seller whistles softly to them, and they respond with a chorus of chirps and trills. It is a small, natural sanctuary in the heart of the urban landscape, a reminder of the beauty of the wild. Across the way, a spice merchant has displayed his goods in large wooden bowls. The colors are vibrant, ranging from the deep, earthy red of dried chilies to the bright golden yellow of turmeric. The aroma is complex and intoxicating, a blend of sweetness, heat, and woodsy notes. He uses a small brass scoop to measure out a portion of star anise for a customer. The spice is shaped like a tiny 8-pointed star, and it has a strong licorice-like scent. These flavors are the foundation of the city's cuisine, bringing depth and character to every meal. A paper merchant is showing a collection of decorative fans to a group of young women. The fans are made of silk or paper stretched over frames of sandalwood or bamboo. Some are painted with delicate landscapes, while others feature lines of classical poetry. As the women open and close the fans, they create a soft, rhythmic clicking that blends with the other noises of the market. The scent of the sandalwood is released, with every movement a subtle woody fragrance that lingers in the air. These are essential accessories for the summer months, providing both comfort and style. We pass a toy maker who is carving a small wooden horse for a waiting child. He uses a sharp, curved knife to shape the wood, his movements quick and confident. The horse is simple but elegant, with a flowing mane and a sturdy, upright posture. The child watches with wide eyes as the toy takes shape in the craftsman's hands. It is a moment of pure, uncomplicated joy, a connection between the creator and the one who will cherish the creation. The wood is warm and smooth, having been sanded to a fine finish. A bridge made of stone and timber arches over one of the city's many canals. We pause here to watch the boats as they glide through the dark green water. Some are laden with grain and vegetables, while others carry passengers to different parts of the capital. The water ripples against the stone pilings, creating a soft, lapping noise that is very soothing. The reflection of the buildings and the sky is broken by the passage of the boats, creating a shifting mosaic of light and color. It is a scene of constant yet peaceful motion. A flower seller has set up her stall near the foot of the bridge. She has baskets filled with fresh lotuses, peonies and lilies, their petals still wet with the morning dew. The fragrance is overwhelming, a sweet floral perfume that fills the immediate area. She selects a single white lotus and hands it to a passer-by who breathes in its delicate scent. The flower is a symbol of purity and enlightenment, its beauty a brief but perfect gift. The petals are as soft as velvet and as white as new-fallen snow. As we continue our walk, we see a shop that specializes in the creation of lanterns. Hundreds of them are hanging from the ceiling in all shapes and sizes. Some are simple spheres of white paper, while others are elaborate structures of silk and wood. They are not yet lit, but we can imagine how they will look in the evening when they cast a warm golden glow over the streets. The craftsman is currently painting a scene of a phoenix on a large red lantern. His brushwork is fine and detailed, the bird's feathers seeming to shimmer even in the daylight. A medicine shop nearby is filled with the scent of dried herbs and roots. The walls are lined with hundreds of small wooden drawers, each one labeled with a different remedy. An old man is weighing out a mixture of dried bark and leaves on a small brass scale. He works with a quiet precision, ensuring that each ingredient is present in the correct amount. This is a place of healing where the wisdom of the past is used to treat the ailments of the present. The atmosphere is one of calm and trust, a sanctuary for the sick and the weary. The morning reaches its zenith, and we turn our gaze toward the tranquil gardens that offer a sanctuary from the vibrant energy of the trade routes. The entrance to the scholar's garden is crafted from dark, polished timber and stands slightly ajar. Beyond this threshold, a realm of green and grey invites us to leave, the commerce of the street behind. The stones underfoot are smooth and cool, having been worn down by decades of contemplative footsteps. Here the bustle of the stalls fades into a distant, muffled hum. A small pond, tucked away in a quiet corner, holds the reflection of the brightening sky. The water is clear, and we can see the orange and gold of the fish as they move with effortless grace. They do not hurry, nor do they compete for space in the shaded depths. The pulse of this place is slow, a contrast to the energy of the city outside. The bamboo grove sways gently in the light breeze, creating a soft, clicking noise as the stalks touch one another. It is a natural percussion that grounds the mind in the present moment. The leaves are a vibrant emerald green, filtering the light into a soft, dappled pattern on the ground. We feel the presence of the earth here, steady and unchanging. Upon a stone table a scholar has left his tools for the day: a ceramic pot of ink, a bamboo brush, and a sheet of fine hemp paper wait for his return. The ink is dark and rich, smelling faintly of pine soot and musk. It is a quiet workspace where ideas are given form and weight. The surrounding trees offer shade, and the silence provides clarity. In a small pavilion, a pot of tea is being brewed over a tiny charcoal brazier. The steam rises in thin, curling wisps, carrying the scent of roasted leaves and spring water. The cups are small and delicate, made of a pale celadon glaze that mirrors the color of the leaves. This is a ritual of patience, where every movement is deliberate and every sip is savored. A miniature bridge of carved limestone spans a narrow, trickling stream. The water flows over smooth pebbles, creating a melody that is both constant and ever-changing. Ferns grow in the damp crevices of the stone, their fronds reaching out to touch the water. It is a place of small wonders, where the beauty of nature is captured in a few square feet. Near the edge of the garden, a weaver works at a wooden loom. The shuttle moves back and forth with a steady, measured click as the silk thread is transformed into a shimmering fabric. The colors are those of the dawn soft blues, pale yellows, and the deep green of the forest. The fabric is light and smooth, a testament to the skill of the human hand. An artisan is carving a new inkstone from a block of dark volcanic rock. He uses a small iron chisel to create intricate patterns of clouds and dragons around the central basin. The dust from the stone is fine and grey, coating his fingers as he works. This object will last for many lifetimes, a tool for poets and bureaucrats alike. We pass a temple gate where the smell of sandalwood incense drifts out into the street. A large bronze bell hangs in a wooden tower, waiting for the hour to be struck. The courtyard is swept clean, the lines in the gravel forming a pattern of ripples and waves. It is a space of devotion where the noise of the market is finally stilled. Climbing the stairs to the city wall, we look out over the sprawling capital. The rooftops are a sea of grey tiles, stretching toward the horizon in every direction. Below us, the market stalls are still busy, but from this height the movement seems more like the flow of a river. The scale of the city is immense, a testament to the power and prosperity of the era. The river which feeds the city is wide and calm, its surface reflecting the brightening sky. Large junks, with their distinctive bat-wing sails, move slowly against the current carrying goods from the southern provinces. The water is a source of life and wealth, a connection to the lands beyond the city walls. We watch as a single fisherman casts his net into the quiet morning water. In a narrow alleyway, the shadows are retreating as the sun climbs higher in the sky. A cat sleeps on a wooden crate, its fur warmed by the first direct rays of light. The walls are made of brick and plaster, weathered by years of sun and rain. It is a humble corner of the city, but it possesses its own quiet dignity. A bird in a bamboo cage sings a complex and beautiful song from a balcony. Its melody rises above the low murmur of the street, a bright and cheerful note in the morning. The cage is decorated with small porcelain bowls for food and water and a single sprig of green. The bird is a companion to the family who lives here, a small piece of nature in the heart of the city. Inside a shop that sells books and paintings, a clerk is carefully rolling up a series of scrolls. The paper is made of mulberry bark, and the ink is as black as the deepest night. Each scroll is tied with a silk ribbon and placed in a wooden box for protection. These are the records of a culture that values learning and the arts above all else. A willow tree leans over the canal, its long trailing branches dipping into the water. The leaves are small and delicate, moving with every breath of wind. A small boat is tied to the trunk, its wooden hull bumping gently against the bank. It is a peaceful spot where one could sit for hours and watch the city go by. A stone lantern stands at the edge of a small garden, its interior empty of flame, for now it is carved with symbols of luck and longevity, its exterior covered in a fine layer of green moss. When evening comes, a small candle will be lit inside, casting a soft, flickering light over the path. For now it is a silent sentinel, marking the passage of time. From our vantage point, we see the market as a tapestry of color and movement. The red of the banners, the blue of the clothing, and the brown of the wooden stalls all blend together. The voices of the merchants and customers create a low, constant hum, like the sound of a distant hive. It is a scene of human endeavor, a testament to the vitality of the empire. The gatehouse of the inner city is a massive structure of stone and timber. Guards in lacquered leather armor stand at the entrance, watching the people as they come and go. The doors are reinforced with iron studs, and the roof is decorated with fierce-looking gargoyles. It is a symbol of order and security, a reminder of the laws that govern this great city. In a quiet courtyard, a single ginkgo tree stands tall, its fan-shaped leaves beginning to turn a pale yellow. The ground is swept, and a few stone benches are arranged in the shade. It is a place for reflection away from the demands of the day. The atmosphere is one of stillness and peace, a final moment of quiet before the heat of the noon. The sky is now a brilliant blue with only a few wispy clouds drifting slowly toward the horizon. The sun is high, and the morning is nearly over, making way for the long, slow afternoon. We have seen the city wake up and move into its daily routine, a cycle that has repeated for generations. The morning fades into the quietude of the inner chambers, where the city's pulse becomes a whisper against the silk screens. Thank you for walking through history with me tonight. Until next time, on Quiet History, sleep well.